Hi, welcome back, Greek 1 students, to the rest of this semester. I hope you are doing well. I pray that you are doing well and have been spared from this virus so far. My wife and I are doing well in spite of the fact that our state here in America, in South Carolina, has a very high rate of COVID. I think your rate in Pakistan may be lower. In any case, we pray for you. We pray that you and your family and yours will remain healthy during this time. And we pray for our teaching assistant, Masood, who has lost his father in the month of November. I pray for him. And we pray for all of you who are facing particularly difficult situations at this time. And ask God that He will have mercy upon us and also that He will help us with this study. I hope you've had a good break, and I hope that if you did the extra credit assignment, that the sermon that you did and the work that you did especially was of benefit to you. That's the reason that we are studying Greek, so that we will use it in our study of the scriptures and in our preaching and teaching. Now let's continue where we left off in the last semester. I want to do just a brief review, and you might want to turn in your textbooks to the end of chapter 5, where we left off. At the end of chapter 5, you have this vocabulary, and you have several words that we call or classify as epsilon omega verbs. That is, their stem ends in a vowel, epsilon. So the stem is ite, and then we have our endings o, es, a, omen, ete, usi, present tense active endings. When we add these endings to the stem of these verbs that end in epsilon, we notice that in this chapter, we notice that there's a contraction that takes place. So that if I share with you my screen here, just waiting for it to come up. Here we are. A verb like laleo, I speak or I utter, very similar to lego in meaning, especially by the time the New Testament was written. It could be used in other ways and was used in other ways previous to this time. But by the time of the New Testament writers, it's beginning to be very similar to lego. What we notice is that in this chapter, that verbs that end in epsilon, their stem ends in epsilon. When we add the endings, there's a contraction that takes place, and it's indicated by a circumflex accent that comes over the top of the ending, lalo. So in the dictionary, in the lexicon, we find the verb listed as laleo, but in the New Testament, we will not see that form. We will only see the contracted form, lalo, I am speaking or I speak. And the only place that it makes a difference in spelling is in the first person plural. We are speaking. If we add omen to lale, it becomes lalumen. And in the second person plural, the you plural, Lale plus eta becomes laleta. So it's in these two forms, in the first person plural and in the second person plural, that we see a difference. Otherwise, it's just the accent. So, and the same will go for all of these verbs. If we go back and share the textbook screen, all of these verbs, starting with aiteo in vocabulary 5, are called epsilon omega verbs. And I'd ask or demand are akulotheo, I follow. Notice that it takes the dative case rather than the accusative case. So I follow Jesus, akulotho, because I won't find this form in the New Testament. I will only find this in my lexicon, in the dictionary. It will show me that this is an epsilon omega verb, but in the New Testament, all these forms are shown as contracted, lalo, and the only thing we notice is the circumflex accent. The spelling changes only here. This is a mistake, by the way. This should be amen. Our ending is normally amen, but if you add it to epsilon, it becomes umen, again with a circumflex accent. Eta becomes eta with a circumflex accent. So make sure that you know these words, vocabulary 5, and that you know what happens when you add the endings for the present active tense. I ask, I told, with a circumflex accent. Dokeo, if I say I think, dako, not dokeo, that's only in the dictionary, dako. We only have contracted forms in the New Testament. We'll see perhaps some more in just a moment. Well, let's go there, actually. I'll share that screen. Let's look at the homework again. Or let's look at the homework. Here we are. I think I've got it. All right. This homework assignment is called 8A because there will be an 8B. The first section, I'm asking you to review chapter 5, and so we're taking sentences out of the textbook in exercise 5.1, part B. Actually, we can go there and share that screen again. So this is your textbook. I don't have page numbers because I have the electronic edition here that I'm showing you. And we scoot down to the exercises. Now notice that we don't do exercise 5.2 because this is an exercise for adding accents, and we aren't learning accent rules. We just noticed that a circumflex accent comes here, for example, martyro, I bear witness. I witnessed that. When the epsilon and the omega combine together. But I won't give you these words, this exercise, because this is adding accents, and we don't really learn very many accent rules. As a general rule, we skip them. But notice that I've given you some exercises here. So for example, if I gave you number 7. Zeitumen ton Jesum. Okay. Now I'm going to switch cameras. And I'm going to use this camera. So let's write that sentence down. I can't remember which number it was. Ton Jesum. Remember that first we go and look for the verb. And we see zeitumen. And we remember, oh, I know this vocabulary word. It's zeteo, I seek. But instead of I seek, this is we seek. And instead of omen, O-A-S-A, omen, it's umen, because the omen has combined with the epsilon to become diphthong, u, zeitumen. And we just put a little circumflex accent that also shows the contraction. We know this is the verb zeteo. Now, we are seeking, or we seek, and if we seek something, it will be in the accusative case generally, always, because this verb takes the accusative case from the direct object. We seek, we have to seek something or someone, and in this case, it's Jesus. You notice that in Greek, the article ton appears with proper names. We don't say this in English. We don't say we are seeking the Jesus. We just translate we are seeking Jesus. And there's no need here to look for a subject, because we already know that this is the first person plural. In other words, we. And so there really can't be another subject. We'll have to translate we are seeking. I'm going to use the continuous. And this is the accusative case. And this is Jesus declines a little differently than, say, logos. Instead of logon, it's Yesun. But ton is the same as it would be with logos. If I were seeking the word, it would be zeitumen ton logon. I'm seeking the word. If I'm seeking Jesus, zeitumen ton Yesun, because Jesus declines differently than logos or adelphos, or even the neuter words that we have learned. So we are seeking Jesus is the simple translation, or we seek, even more simple. We seek, simple present or continuous present, we are seeking Jesus. No article in English. So that one's fairly straightforward to translate. And I hope that you will remember your Greek well enough that you should have no trouble doing the rest of the verses or the exercises in at the end of chapter 5, exercise 5.1. But in your homework, I'm also asking you to learn now chapter 6. And the first thing I'm asking you to do is to decline some new nouns. And you'll notice here we have some nouns that we know. Ha artos, bread. Ta prosopon, the face. Sorry, the bread, the face. Ha adelphos, the brother. But there are two words here that we haven't had before. And notice the article is different too. He chara, he glossa. So what do these words mean, and why do they have a different article? So we need to answer that question. And to do that, we're going to go to our textbook and share that. Let's see if I can do it here. I think so. Ah, yes. I believe I'm still sharing the screen. And brings us to chapter 6. It will look a little different in your textbook. It will be a little easier to read. You'll notice that Dr. McIver uses 3 words, ge, hemera, and doxa, to introduce to us the feminine first declension nouns. So we're no longer here with second declension nouns. We're no longer with verbs. We are with nouns, but we have a new, what we call a new declension. Declension is simply a way to group words in grammatical form or grammatical terms to help us learn the language. And most first declension nouns will be feminine in form, which is the reason, by the way, that we will have that feminine article. But for the moment, let's just notice that we have 3 kinds. We have feminine nouns that end in eta. We have feminine nouns that end in alpha, but there are 2 different kinds of those. If we go down the page, we notice that hemera, and the accusative is hemeron, the genitive hemeras, the dative hemera, it's all alpha in the singular. But not so with doxa, glory. Yes, it follows the pattern here with the accusative, but when you come to the genitive, it looks like ge. It looks like the eta nouns. I like to call these, in the textbook, they're called alpha pure nouns. That is, first declension nouns that just keep alpha as their ending vowel. A, on, as, a, with the iota subscript. And by the way, the plural is all the same for both kinds. So the plural is not something that really concerns us too much. Days and glories. But the singular is more difficult. There are actually seem to be more of these nouns in the New Testament than there are these. The alpha pure. Another term I like to use for these nouns is Old MacDonald nouns. I don't know if you know the American folk song, Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on this farm he had a donkey, and so on. We used to sing this as children. Children still do. We sing it with our grandchildren, our small grandchildren. Our oldest grandson is 20 years old now, so he'll be 21 this year. So they are growing up. But why do we call them Old MacDonald nouns? Because we can sing this song modified a bit and sing E-I-E-I-ro, epsilon iota ro, E-I-E-I-ro, instead of E-I-E-I-O. And don't ask me what E-I-E-I-O means. It's just something we sing. But E-I-E-I-ro can help us remember what happens with alpha pure nouns. If their stem, in other words, if a stem ends in epsilon, iota, or rho, the Greek letter rho, the R, like this word hemera, which means day, it will be alpha pure. It will keep alpha through all its declensions, nominative, accusative, genitive, dative. If it's not an Old MacDonald first declension noun, feminine, it will be like doxa or glossa, tongue is another word, or thalassa. We'll introduce you to those. They aren't actually listed in vocabulary 6, but we'll add them anyway, just so we have a few more that are not alpha pure. And so their genitive is doxes, and their dative is singular is doxe with the iota subscript. So they are like the eta nouns. So we have two main groups with this group in two sections. There's the eta nouns, and there's the alpha pure and the non-alpha pure, or the Old MacDonald alpha nouns and the regular alpha nouns. If we go down to the vocabulary list, you'll notice that we have a mixture here of vocabulary 6 that we need to learn this week. So I hope you've been reviewing, because we have new words to learn this week. Agape, hamartia. Agape is no problem, but notice that it's an eta noun, and this is an Old MacDonald noun because its stem ends in iota. Hamartia, it's an ei rho. It's an Old MacDonald, it's an alpha pure noun, the word for sin. Hamartia. So nouns, their stem ends in iota. It's not a diphthong, by the way, because there is no diphthong in Greek for iota alpha. There is for alpha iota. We learned that one. Aiteo, one sound, but here there are two sounds. Hamartia. Arche is an eta noun. Notice like agape. Ge, earth, ground, land, is an eta noun. Doxa, we just learned, is an alpha noun, but alpha, not alpha pure, it's not Old MacDonald. And just for good fun, he's included because it's also used more than 50 times, doxazo, I glorify, I praise, because this word comes from the verb form. Doxa, glory or splendor or fame. I glorify, I praise, doxazo. Ecclesia, church. Intole. So again, we have an alpha and an eta, first declension noun, church and commandment. Exousia, authority. Evangelia, promise. Watch out that you don't get these two words mixed up, because sometimes students do. The word for life, zoe, from which we have, and in England and America, often a name for girls is Zoe, and it's the English form of this Greek word with omega. Zoe, life. Hemera, day. Sophia, wisdom, also a girl's name. Not surprising, because these are feminine words. Phone, voice or sound, and then again a verb that goes with chara, joy, chairo, which I suppose may also have something to do with the city in Egypt, where it gets its name. I suspect that's where it gets its name. I'm not for certain. So we need to know these new words, but we also need to group them. And again, you'll notice that he has a table with 3 columns. Now, I've given you in your homework a table in the homework, a table with 5 columns. So if we go back and share that screen with the 5 columns, section 3, what I ask you to do is to decline these words in the nominative singular, accusative singular, genitive singular, dative singular, and nominative plural, and so forth. And notice that I put in a few of them for you just to make it easier. But let's, for example, say that we do a little bit of this homework. I'm going to take another sheet of paper. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to use Kara. Now we learned these new words. Kara means joy. Okay. But as you know, in the New Testament, I don't always find these words in the nominative case. Sometimes I find them, and for example, in the accusative case, if it's the direct object. For example, if we took our previous verb and let's say that we want to say Dawid. Actually, I should put Ho Dawid because we use the article with proper names in Greek. David is seeking. So I'm going to write Ze Te. And because there is a contraction here, I'm going to include this circumflex accent. Zeteo, David is seeking, or David seeks. And if David is seeking joy, then the form will be Haran, not Hara. Why Haran? Because this is the accusative case. It's the direct object. David is seeking, third person singular. David is seeking. What is he seeking? Joy. Now, if I have the joy of the earth or the joy of a land, for example, I wanted to add a phrase to this in the genitive case of a land. Of a land. This of means it will have to be placed in the genitive case. So joy of a land. I don't have an article yet, but I know that the genitive form, singular, of land, gay, is geis. So David is seeking a joy of a land, geis. No article, not the land, simply of a land. So I just have Haran, geis. We'll look at a few more sentences in just a moment. But that is the first thing you need to do. Let me get back to my camera. And your homework is to take the nouns that I've given to you on part 3 of homework number 8A. And after you have learned the endings of the first declension feminine, you need to be able to write them in and decline them in their proper form in the nominative and the accusative and the genitive and the dative. I'm also going I'm going to stop at this point with this segment, but I want to just say one more thing. In the videos that I will include by Dr. Campbell, I'm including them because I think sometimes it's easier if you have a second voice, and you may find his explanation somewhat easier than mine, or mine easier than his, I don't know. But in his video, he will include the article, which I will add in just a moment with the second video. But you will notice that he always places the genitive before the accusative, whereas we have the accusative and then the genitive and dative. There's a reason for that. And I think Dr. McIver has done well to do it this way in the textbook. So when you watch the video of Dr. Campbell on the subject, the same subject on the different words, be sure and remember that he puts the genitive first and then the dative and then the accusative, whereas our order that we are going to learn, the declension, is nominative, accusative first, and then the genitive, and then the dative. There's one other danger that I want you to make note of, and I need to change cameras to do it. I hope that you remember that, for example, if I want to write the faces in Greek, pros, o, pa, ta, pros, o, pa, the faces in the nominative case, and the accusative, which are the same in Greek. This ending is alpha. So we do have some alpha endings in the cases, in the words we have learned already, in the neuter words in particular. Ta, prosopa, the faces of the infants, or the infants. Ta, pi, di, a, the infants, the faces. Now, you have to be careful here that you don't get this alpha ending confused with a word like chara, the new word that we are learning, joy. This is not a neuter plural. This is a feminine singular. First declension feminine, second declension neuter. The infants has alpha at the end, but now the words we are learning, for example, joy, singular, nominative, joy would be the subject. Chara also has alpha. So don't confuse it with the neuter endings, neuter plural endings that we had before. So we have just talked about the just a brief review where we left off in chapter 5 and introduced chapter 6, the first declension, the feminine nouns, and vocabulary list at the end of chapter 6. In the next video, we're just going to look briefly at the article that goes with these nouns and then practice some sentences.